I drive my car up to the lake as if there's someone to awake. I haven't been to bed for days, I live in a twilight haze. And I set my heart to the setting sun, and I hope that no one else has done it. And the drinks are never far, open up the bar. I miss you every single day. I wait until I start your way. I hate the way I'm straying into these perfect days.
It was hard to, we had to build the cafe to begin with. What was that?
Oh, sorry. That's me.
Bloody hell, Milton. Keep it down.
Sorry.
Hey, Matty. So, let's begin this podcast. Right. Now, you come to us all the way from next door.
Yeah, a long way this morning.
Yeah, so you're essentially our neighbour, and part of this podcast was, for me, and just the objectives and stuff was to like community and stuff, and get the neighbours in and talk to them and find out a bit about them, and also encourage the different businesses locally and just kind of have a little platform to talk. So, and in actual fact, we've had some sort of further afield ones, but no one as close as yourself. So that's cool. I'm stoked.
Yeah, it's worked out well.
The kebab guy doesn't want to come in at 5:30 in the morning. I don't know why not.
He's probably going home at 4:30 in the morning. That's why he doesn't want to come back at 5:30.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, but, that's them's the breaks, eh? So now we opened probably in 2018. You would have opened about a year later, did you?
We opened in 2018 too, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, December 2018, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that wasn't long after it. Man, how does time, does it feel like it's gone fast or slow the last 3 or 4 years?
I feel like time always goes fast in retrospect, like regardless, like kids are a great reminder of how quick time goes. Sometimes the hours and days can go slowly, but and that's probably the same with business, I think. But when you look back, retrospectively, you go, wow, where did the time go?
Yeah, I know.
And for anyone, it's been a pretty crazy few years. It hasn't, like, the last 3 years have been normal in any sense of it. So it's, at the time probably it goes slowly, but now, and I look back over 3 years, excuse me, it's flown by.
Yeah. So Electrify New Zealand, there's different shops around New Zealand. How many different stores are there now?
Yeah, so it's there's 11 stores around the country, and we've got sort of a single parent group. And essentially it's like a licensor arrangement, kind of like a franchise, a little bit different, but yeah, it's sort of kind of weird how we came across it. We've got another business, a gym, and we bought that about 6 years ago now as a going concern, and that was great. And then sort of my wife and I ran that, and we were just looking for something else to do. I did a few other things. I did some non-profitable, not-for-profit sort of ventures, and which was cool. And then it was sort of time to put my energy into something else. And I sort of was looking around for opportunities and businesses and things to do. Yeah. And then I remember I just reached out to some other colleagues and said that I knew we were in a similar situation, and said, hey, look, if you find anything, I'm looking for something too. And we sort of said, vice versa, if I find something, I'll let you know. And they rang one day and said, do you know much about e-bikes? And I said, not really. And that was sort of how it started. And then they've got a great model, and it was a group of people which I liked and trusted. So we looked for places to open. I never ran a retail store before.
No.
And we were actually meant to be on the other side of town. And it's funny how things work out. There was a tenant in the building that had some bikes or sold some bike parts or something, and so said that we couldn't move in. And then so we ended up here, which ended up being far better than if we'd gone there. So
the e-bike thing is fascinating because that's kind of exploded pretty recently, and I don't know. I mean, when I first saw them, I thought they were a bit of a gimmick. And I know Lime scooters, the electric sort of scooters on the streets, were coming out at similar time, and plus, I didn't really think they would do too well either. But the public has sort of embraced both of them to a level that I never expected. Like, I recall going up to the hills and just seeing the bikes everywhere.
Yeah, it's been there's been some pretty incredible uptake of them, that's for sure. I mean, I had no idea as well. I mean, to be transparent, one of the things that attracted me to our model was that we don't buy the stock until we sell it, right? So our parent company essentially stocks the whole business, and then it's when we sell it that we have to buy it off them, like consignment model. So it made it relatively risk free. Well, not risk free, but that we were sort of able to minimise the risk that was involved, because I didn't know much about it either. You know, I just looked at it and you know. I always think, particularly in business, you sort of have to just go with your gut a lot. You know, you can spend days and weeks and months sort of breaking things down and hyper-analysing things and getting too caught up in numbers and details. And there certainly has to be an amount of that happen. You have to know, you know, the numbers have to stack up. But at the end of it, you know, ultimately we sort of rely on gut. And, you know, I'm lucky to have some good people around me that I bounce ideas off as well. But... you know, there wasn't much risk in it. So yes, there was some concern that maybe they might not take off, but you know, there was very little risk involved for us. We'd put up a bit of cash, and you know, my wife and I, and the model sort of was, you know, my mentor sort of said to me, "You're running out of reasons why you shouldn't do this."
Oh yeah,
you know, and so which is a good way to put it. And so we jumped in and. You know, it's just been a funny journey, like any businesses. You know, like there's days when you think you're going under, you know, and weeks, months sometimes that happens for. You know, we COVID, we thought thought it was it, you know, and then I remember out the back of COVID we had a sale. You know, we were like far out, like because COVID was sort of like, you know, February, March, that first initial lockdown, and so we thought. Like, you know, that's part of our season, you know, and then we ended up being in lockdown for like 8 weeks or something.
That's right.
Coming out in April.
Yeah.
I was like far out. Like, you know, that's normally when we make some good money to help us over the winter, which is pretty slim.
Our busiest month is March as well, for whatever reason. I think it's because, you know, we've had the Christmas holidays, summer's coming to an end. Sometimes Easter is kind of almost finished. Or usually, I guess, but anyway... People were kind of back at the office by that stage anyway.
Yeah. So it's sort of, I remember, I don't know. I mean, for us it's a bit more obvious because it's seasonal. You know, people like riding bikes when it's warmer. And then so we came back and we were like, we need to get some cash into the business to survive winter. So we had a sale, and then like it was, you know, there was lots of interest and uptake, and then the sale ended and it sort of continued, and you know, it was just sort of. Yeah, you know, certainly luck was involved. You know, right place, right time, and good luck rather than good management. But it was, there's certainly been a heavy uptake of electric bikes. You know, certainly across the country, but also like it's a global phenomenon. What's happening? You know, like it's like Europe is nuts. Like what's happening in Europe with them is unbelievable. You know, there's been $2 billion spent on cycle infrastructure in Europe in the last 2 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, like it's crazy what's happening over there. And so, you know, what's going to happen with New Zealand? It'll be interesting to see now that the borders are starting to open back up. But I don't see it slowing down. You know, like I don't.
Because there's kind of a cycle tourism thing, right? What happened to the bike trail thing? Like, there was at one point there was a lot of discussion over building this trail that was going to kind of have sections all up and down New Zealand. How far did we get with that? It sort of dropped off the radar as far as I'm aware. But
yeah, I don't know. They certainly, the whole sort of bike trail thing has exploded as well, and I guess electric bikes have been part of that, allowing people who don't normally bike to be able to go and do these things. And if you go on some of those trails, there's 90% of people will be on electric bikes. Like I don't know exactly about that trail, but there's been certainly has been some money invested into places in Central Otago and Clyde and Dunstan and that sort of stuff, and the same sort of in the Central North Island as well.
Most of the bikes have kind of off-road capabilities, don't they? Or they're kind of like a crossover.
Yeah, I mean, most people want a bike that does a little bit of everything. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's been an interesting few years, but it's like I said, we're kind of on the. It's been. For us, we've been lucky. We've been on the better side of the last couple of years. Whereas, I know there's tourism, for example, and some other different industries have not been quite so lucky, and it was only luck. So you have to be thankful for sometimes when things go your way.
I mean, that was the ideal kind of storm in some regards, because you're really into business anyway. Like you have a passion for it and sort of an interest in how it operates. And obviously a part of business is, having contingency plans for these scenarios which people probably don't think are going to happen.
Yeah, well,
it happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we did our first business plan, 3.5 years ago, I certainly didn't write down, global pandemic as a threat to our.
It's like writing down alien invasion.
You never know, and it has made you sort of rethink, what could happen. But at the same time, like I said, I think you've got to be optimistic, particularly in business. Like if you spend too much time worrying about what goes wrong, you miss the opportunity. And there's always a reason why you shouldn't do things. Always, and there's always, You want to be calculated with what you're doing, and you want to make sure that you're understanding the risks that are involved. But you ultimately have to take risks, and there's always uncertainty. And I think that if you can minimise your downside and embrace the risks that you face, that you tend to end up in a better situation than if you don't. And not everything works out all the time, but you've got to have a swing, and you've got to have a go. Otherwise, you're not living, I guess.
No, that's dead right. And you've obviously, because you've also got a podcast called now The Road to Success, and I've kind of flicked through a number of those episodes, and you've talked to some real high-profile business people and a number of different people from different areas of society and stuff. Some of them are sort of survivors and personal tales more, not so much business. But so you're gathering a lot of information and knowledge and kind of tips and stuff like that, and then you're being able to put it into practice as well.
Yeah, well, I think that lifelong learning is a trait that is synonymous with most people that are tend to do well, and I for some reason I have an innate sort of interest, like it just this excites me, to talk to people and learn to people and learn things that, and for some reason business and growth and development and strategy and people and culture really like it lights me up, and so I've sort of I don't do it to, I enjoy it is probably
exactly
the thing that drives it for me, and the result of that is that I get to learn things and grow and be better, and you can always learn something from anyone. I think it's up to you, and the podcast has just been a nice platform to be able to talk to people that I maybe otherwise wouldn't. And I love podcasts, I mean, you obviously know, but like you don't get the opportunity to sit down with people face to face and speak for an hour uninterrupted this day and age.
That's right.
Never. When was the last time you did it without a podcast and headphones and microphone?
Yeah, that's right.
You never do it.
Maybe a difficult customer.
Yeah.
Handling a complaint.
Yeah,
it's a big queue behind them.
Yeah,
it's like, come on.
Yeah, it's always the way. But so, and also 5 years ago, you didn't think there was much of a demand for long-form conversations. Like, who on earth would want to listen to people speak for an hour?
Yeah.
When most media that people were consuming was 30-second snippets. But the reality is, I think that when you listen to a conversation, you start to know the person, and the stuff they're saying, if you relate to it, can become a lot more valid. Like you could take a highlight of this conversation, a 10-second highlight, and I might sound like an idiot, or I might sound like really intelligent. And so you could take that out, and if you show that to someone in isolation, it's hard for them to believe it, or either way. But if you listen to an hour of a conversation, they might, say, from me, for example, they might go, oh no, he actually is an idiot, like what he said was dumb, but if you start to, if you listen to an hour, you begin to understand a human being and the person and the conversation, and then so you go, oh well, I know why he said that, because I believe him, because I can tell that he's genuine in what he's trying to do or say or be, whereas a 30-second highlight can easily be taken out of context. So I love
totally.
podcasts, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've got to meet some pretty amazing people, and and it's always surprising who says yes. I find you just ask, and next minute they're sitting in your living room, or in your case, in your cafe. That's
our one's, I guess, a little bit difficult because they do have to be actually here for it to kind of be effective. I mean, I could call them in, do a phone call and stuff, but
no, in person's certainly better. It's easier to have a conversation for sure than online. Yeah.
So a lot of the themes, when you're talking to all the different people, do you notice, because you're kind of, so if it's business or personal life, that idea of success, I suppose going back one more step, success, like everyone defines it differently, right? Mm-hmm. So do you notice that when you're talking to different people, does that kind of shine through?
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions I always used to ask was, what does success look like to you?
Yeah.
But it's quite a hard question. People don't know the answer to it. One of the things that I've learned is that it changes. Success when you're a 16-year-old boy is, getting a pash. Success when you're a 35-year-old man is maybe getting a pash. I don't know. But, it changes when certain things change in your life, and, once you have kids, and once you've got a business or a job, and, success is contextual for each person is what I've learned. Yeah. And
but the focus is probably more on the road.
Yeah, well, it was just the road to success. It's just the title. I mean, it's it doesn't. It's quite broad because I didn't want to be locked into talking about one particular thing, and it's really. I mean, I think everyone wants to be successful, right? Yeah. There's no one that you meet and say, "I don't want to be successful." And the thing is you define your own definition of success. So you go, "Well, success for me has been a really good dad." Yeah. And so then you can interview someone about parenting, or success for me is, dealing with, my mental illness, or success for me is making lots of money, or success for me is whatever it is. And so I find that everyone does want to be successful once you figure out what that actually means for an individual. So it's quite a broad sort of idea, and it came about because 2017 I did this charity thing, and I rode this rickshaw across India, and I wanted to raise all this money for it. And
who was it for? Like who was it being contributed towards? Do you mind?
So I gave half to the Inspire Foundation here in Canterbury, which I'm sort of involved with. Yeah, and then half to a guy called Alex Reese, who set up a foundation in India called the Cricket Live Foundation. Cool. And so split the money 50-50 with them, and one of the ways that I raised the money was I put on an event in Christchurch, and I called it the Road to Success. Yeah, and it was just like a black tie dinner, and people bought tables and tickets, and there was speakers and auctions and all this sort of stuff. And after it went really well, and we raised a lot of money at the event, and I got all this feedback, people saying that we really enjoyed the event. Like, you should do more of them. Like, it's a fun sort of inspirational night that we can bring our teams along to. And I don't know if you've ever put on an event, but it's bloody horrifying. Like, I just didn't enjoy it at all.
But I can imagine.
Like, there's so I don't know how event management people do it. Like, it's just horrific. And I was so stressed, and there were so many moving parts. And I thought, well, I'm absolutely not doing that again. I'm glad you enjoyed it, but not me. But what people really enjoyed was the hearing from these speakers. And so I thought, well, why don't I take all that other element, the event, out of it, and I can just do the speakers. And so I just started, emailing people asking if they'd come and have a chat with me, and that's sort of how it started, and it's just sort of evolved over the years.
That's so cool. Hey, Milton, did you see that Matty had talked to Michael Hill?
Yeah, I did. Michael Hill, he's awesome. I read his autobiography.
Yeah, he's got a crazy story, eh?
Man, his house burning down and then jumping into his business from there. I think he's about the age of 40 or something.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Yeah, everyone thinks that he sort of started early, but he worked for his uncle for a huge majority of his life, and it wasn't until he was 40 years old and that he got the guts to jump out on his own, and he started Michael Hill Jeweller at about 40 years old.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And when he's working for his uncle, there's always that sort of power disparity, and it's like, oh man, I don't really want to be doing this. And I think when his house burnt down, that was the catalyst, right?
100%. So if you don't know the story, he was worked for his uncle for a number of years, and he hated it, and his uncle hated him. They really didn't get on, but they were both doing reasonably well, to the point that he was able to build his own house, and they built the house, and then he was putting the final coat of oil on the outside, and it started to rain, and they got really frustrated, because they couldn't finish the house. So him and his wife went to the movies, and they got out of the movies, and there was a phone call for them that said, you need to come home. And they got home to find their house literally burning down. The whole thing was on fire, right. And he sat there, and they couldn't do anything. There's something happened with the oil they were putting on, and it burst into flames. And so he got home, and he was sitting there watching his brand new house burn down. And it was sort of the story is that he wrote down that night. He got out his pen and paper at the hotel they ended up in, and he wrote down a few things. And one of the things he wrote down was buy my uncle out or leave, and he tried 3 or 4 times to buy his uncle out, and his uncle kept saying no, which he was a jeweller, obviously, and so he'd worked in there for 20 years, and so his uncle refused, and so at the ripe old age of 40, he'd left and started Michael Hill Jeweller. So it's a incredible story.
Oh, totally. It's so cool how time and time again, out of hardship and out of a tragedy or whatever, something awesome stems out of it. And that's the thing that perhaps really pushed him and gave him that thing.
Yeah, well, one thing, I think adversity is the ability to overcome adversity is pretty synonymous with people that have, tend to go and do relatively well. And, having an event or events that you've had to deal with, I find is relatively a common theme with the people that I chat with anyway. There's certainly, it's probably not the adversity, it's the ability to deal with it and overcome it and
the reaction.
And get through it, because the reality is there's always going to be an element of adversity and challenge and obstacles in your way, regardless of what you're trying to achieve. And I think it's your ability to deal with that and to come out the other side that tends to, differentiate people that decide that that's, not what they're going to do.
I wonder if we'll see an explosion of kind of things in the next few years that stem from COVID. Maybe we've already kind of seen it. I know we did during the earthquake. There was a lot of startup businesses afterwards, and people kind of tied it back to that. But yeah, I wonder if COVID will sort of perhaps push people in that direction. Yeah,
whenever there's change, there's opportunity. Whenever there's something, whenever something happens, in anything, there's whether it's something like an earthquake or a pandemic, or when markets change, when there's new technologies evolve, there's opportunity, and this day and age, there's a lot of people willing to have a go at that opportunity, and so hopefully, innovation is good. It's better for all of us if people have a go at things, and I'm really for people having a go at things, for having a swing and trying something. I enjoy people, taking risks and having a go.
The interesting thing with Michael's story, I think he opened his shop and he was in competition with his uncle, like in the small town.
In Whangarei, and it was like just down the road. They were like a couple of k's apart.
Michael, he knew what to do. He knew how to draw the people in. had a great natural understanding of advertising, marketing, and people were like queuing up.
Oh, he's a genius. There's no, he's incredibly clever. Obviously, you don't get to be that successful without, he did a lot of things well, but he learned as well. He was, there's lots of people that have probably spent 20 years working in a jeweller that couldn't go out and create what he's done.
Yeah.
So I think that, he had a unique way of looking at things. He spent a lot of time I don't know if he spent a lot of time, but I know that the design and layout he got from the Hong Kong gold markets. So he went over there, and so he was just learning and looking and researching and figuring out ways to do things. Kind of like you guys have done here. I know that you've got a small space, but it's been designed so efficiently because you spend a lifetime doing it. So he kind of when he was setting it up as business, he knew exactly how he wanted things because he spent 20 years doing it, and he was able to scale that, which was the difference.
Yeah. So when you're hearing all these stories, one of the things, because I probably don't read as much as you do, or perhaps, I'm not quite as, I'm kind of quite focused and I'm not hearing everything. But one of the things, some of the feelings that I get is sort of a feeling of being inspired, but also a feeling of inadequacy. It's kind of weird, eh? You hear all these stories but I think... So there's an element of, like you say, luck, right? And then there's an element of you've got to be there at the right time to kind of make those two things kind of meet and for it to kind of all happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, how do you feel about that? Does it scare you, or does it make you happy? Are you kind of still like, where do you feel you're at personally? Like, you kind of like living the dream. You're kind of feeling quite content and stuff. Because I sort of looked through some of your website and stuff, and to be fair, Matt, I was like, oh yeah, cool, electric bike shop. And then once I opened up your website, I was like, far out. This guy Matty has done a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. So what was the question? Sorry.
Sorry, I just ramble. I don't know. I mean, like, where are you kind of at, and how do you feel about life and stuff? Because like we hear these different stories, like Michael Hill and his kind of a lot of he was just kind of perhaps the daily grind, and then up until the age of 40 or whatever, and then it kind of things changed. You're excited about the future and stuff, and
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, we're all going to get old anyway, and you might as well, like, I'm 36 now, to turn 36, and like, I'm going to get to 60 regardless, right? Like, I might as well have that time between now and then been doing things that I like and have enjoyed the ride. Yeah. And like, it's definitely easy to get caught up in chasing goals and being successful, whatever that means, and that sort of. But the ultimate goal really is to enjoy the process, right? Yeah. And I think that's sort of what but when you're ambitious, it's really easy to get caught up in chasing something. Yeah. So
there's kind of like the drive. Yeah. Can the drive kind of overtake that sense of enjoyment and sort of contentment?
Yeah. Well, like, yep, it can. You can get you get busy and you get caught up and you've got stressful things happening with whatever it is, whether it's staff or the market or legislation or governments or rules or restrictions or children or partners and families and all that sort of stuff is always going to happen. But that's a part of everything, like it's, and I wouldn't, I do maybe a lot of different things, but it's because I like them and I want to do it, and everyone feels busy, and it's not, I don't like being busy. It's just like an overused term. I think it's just I'm doing what I choose to do, and I enjoy what I do, and it's really nice to when things work out, and it doesn't always happen, but the times that it does happen.
So, what are the little things the tips? Like, what do you use to kind of keep yourself sane?
Sane. Well, when I had children, it really sort of changed things, and like it does for most people, and it brings things a lot more. it brings you down to earth. It doesn't matter, how good you are, or how good a day you've had. A shitty nappy's a shitty nappy, and they're a humbler kids. They just want you, and they want time, and you can't replace it with anything else. And so, I have really enjoyed my family time, and I protect it quite fiercely as well. I used to work pretty much every weekend, and now I really try and protect my weekends because the kids aren't at daycare and my wife's at home, and it can come across as not lazy but not wanting to work. But for me, it's it's really important to prioritise that, because that's really important to me. And I know the kids get older so fast, and you can't get this time back, and they want to spend time with me now, and I know that won't always be the case. So I fiercely protect my family time.
Oh, good on you. That's cool. Yeah. So families are big.
And extended family as well, and but I also try to do things I enjoy as well, and I've just started playing rugby again last year, and I haven't played.
Is that right?
Yeah, I haven't played since I was 18 years old, and I just wanted to do something again.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really enjoying it. Very, very, very social. We don't practice or anything, but I really enjoy it. It's a good bunch of people. It's it's an outlet for have a bit of fun and not worry about too much, because it's trying to turn off is hard. I find when you guys are the same. It's not like your job doesn't finish when you walk out the door. There's always still problems to solve, and in this sort of hyper-connected world, it's really can be hard to distance yourself and switch off. So there's a few things that sort of allow you to not think about other things. And
it is full on. The social media, like having those platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and stuff, and there's just a constant. There's always going to be someone awake, perhaps messaging you and stuff like that, and knowing that perhaps you don't have to reply immediately and things like that, and finding that space where you can switch off is super important.
And empowering other people to step in and do those roles for you as well. I think
true.
Fine, one thing as a business owner, I think it's always important to recognise is that you're not God. When you sort of think that no one does anything like you do, and that's probably the case, but you have to empower other people and trust other people and to make decisions and do things in your absence. Otherwise, you just do yourself in. I think.
I was listening to your podcast you're talking with Sean Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that guy's super amazing.
Crazy. Did you listen to both of them, or which one?
I've listened to the first one about productivity
and culture,
and culture, and man, he just had such a knack for it.
Yeah,
pretty much a genius of it.
He is. Yeah. Did you listen to the?
Yes, I've listened to half of the second one, which is quite shocking.
It is.
When I heard his first voice.
Yeah,
man, because he's got terminal cancer.
He's passed away. Actually,
he's passed away.
Yes.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So he's a really interesting guy because he's got he's dying. He's diagnosed with cancer, but he has this kind of I don't want to say he's on the spectrum. That's not quite right, but he's got this element where he's unimpeded by his own mortality when he talks. So he talks to you like he's a doctor talking about a patient about to die.
Oh yeah. And
so he's got and he said to me, there's no question off limits. I'm dying, and you can ask me anything you want.
Yeah, cool.
And so we just had this. And he's very smart as well, and he's very articulate, so he's able to communicate the way he's thinking and what it's like to die, essentially.
Yeah.
He was an engineer, right? And then he became a social...
Yeah.
Not a scientist, but going into big factories and sorting out the workforce.
Efficiencies, he could work out efficiencies, mainly by moving
the both worlds, the engineering and the social.
Yeah, so a very interesting guy all around, and because he wears a number of different hats, but he's very smart, and he's missed. He was an amazing guy. It's sad that we lost him.
I'm sad to hear he's gone. He's
a brilliant man. Yep. But it's a reminder of the brevity of life. It's nothing that
He's the ultimate stoic, mate.
Yeah, he is the ultimate stoic.
I like stoicism. It's like, wow, that dude is living it right now.
Yeah. Easy to say, but when you're actually dying, to
100%.
Like that. Yeah, crazy story.
Yeah,
So that's about empowering people. Empowering people on the production line to have their own agency and so forth.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to give that one a listen.
Yeah, it's well worth it. Well worth it.
Yeah.
It's hard to. It is. There's so many different tensions in life that pull you one way or the other, and trying to navigate those things. Man, it can be a bit of a problem, I find.
But those are also the things that give your life meaning, I find. It's the if you took all those things away that are giving you tension, there's no. It only causes you stress because it's important to you, right? If it wasn't important, it wouldn't matter. Like if something was, there'd be no stress from, something that you had no value for. So, in some ways, having those is a privilege because it means that whatever you're doing or whatever's involved is important to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, work's stressful because it's important that it goes well. And, family can be stressful because it's important that they're happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Ultimately it's because we value things that we get stressed about them. Because we want them to do well or be happy or be healthy.
Yeah. One of the things that I really liked that I read that you'd written about the earthquake and your experiences on the day of the earthquake, and it was just the road workers being involved in the rescue, and I really like that because it's just this instance where road workers aren't seen to be particularly valuable at any given stage, perhaps, but in this instance, man, they were just the perfect people at the right time to be there and kind of help and give that lending hand. Yeah,
well, it's an interesting tangent from we're talking about value, and like what's important, and in the earthquake, I think I wrote about how would you how do you value a road worker, for example, and when you're stuck in traffic behind roadworks, you go, oh, they're all just standing there doing nothing, but if you're trapped 3 stories below a collapsed building and there's a group of road workers on top that know what they're doing on these tools, then all of a sudden you go, shit, that's I really value what they're doing at the moment. So it was they were great. I mean, there was lots of people that did stuff that was pretty incredible, but them being there was that when it was life and death, it it doesn't matter what someone does. It doesn't matter if there might be a lawyer or a judge or a doctor or an accountant or someone that we may value higher maybe in a normal world. But like I said, when you're under 10 tons of concrete, someone that can use a jackhammer's pretty valuable too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's cool to see that kind of flipped around and on its head and stuff like that. And there's a greater truth there.
It's one of those great leveller situations.
Yeah, that's right. It did kind of level people out. I think that's kind of part of the unity that comes after that type of thing. Don't know whether COVID quite produced unity.
It perhaps
kind of more
division. Very early on in the first lockdown.
Yeah.
When we didn't understand the nature of it.
Yeah, true.
It could be something a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, well, there ultimately was a pretty collective response from everyone. So I think, when you talk about what our country did for, a couple of years, it was relatively universal.
It wasn't too bad.
There's always going to be difference of thought and opinion and ideas, and that sort of happens regardless. The earthquake, maybe there was very little difference, because it was a really good leveller of everyone, but maybe with COVID, there's certainly a bit more, diversity of thought and ideas because not everyone sees it the same. But I don't want to. Vaccinations are. I don't want to get into that, but still, like 95% of the country was vaccinated.
Exactly,
and that's probably the biggest majority that we've had on almost anything. And people would it's a nice headline to say that the country's divided, but if 95% of people voted for one political party, you go, it'd be absolute landslide, it'd be historical. No one's ever seen that before, and so
Totally.
as much as it was divided, it wasn't that divided as well. Don't believe the headlines sometimes.
No, yeah. Wow. And so what's happening, what are you looking forward to in the future over the next, we've kind of got to get it through winter, coming up to Christmas again.
Yeah, I mean...
when do you get new stock in the shop, like as far as all the electric bikes go? Do you getting a constant stream of new models, or is it seasonal?
We're pretty lucky with that. They're pretty seasonal. I mean, they're pretty consistent, but there is a seasonal element to the business for sure, because, in the winter it's a lot more... it's the hardy people that continue to ride their bike every day, whereas we are, the recreationalists tend to be a lot more, warmer weather riders, fair weather riders. But, there's a few things that I'm sort of working on in the background at the moment. There's always something. I'm always thinking of ideas and things, and that's sort of something that we're going through at the moment. But, I think that we haven't had a winter for the last 2 years in our business, as far as it hasn't really been like a huge off season, and so this year is also the first year that people can travel, so we're going to Fiji with the family,
brilliant,
the girls and stuff, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, totally.
There's a few things happening, but I always just enjoy my family time, to be honest. It's what excites me is seeing the girls and doing well and making progress in the things that we're trying to achieve, and as a family, but also the things that I do individually as well. And
wicked.
What about you guys?
What am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to same thing, just growth. Like growth on a sort of a personal level, I guess, but also on business as well. And I'm learning more about planning, which is an oversight perhaps so far, which is terrible. I've kind of I should have planned more. But better late than never.
In what
right?
sense? In a business sense, you mean?
Yeah, probably in a business sense. Just to kind of nail down some kind of direction and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's now I'm seeing it in a different light because I've kind of been bogged down in the day to day, hard out, and then so what before perhaps I would have looked at planning and thought, oh man, I don't want to do that. That sucks. I just want to be in there in action. That action and that day to day is sort of the novelty's kind of worn off, and now I'm like, let's think about the bigger picture. That's what I'm kind of looking forward to. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's right. I was saying, what would Tony say about that, Dave? Because Tony was in the military, and I was imagining him not planning anything, just jumping in and doing something.
Well, there's different times. Yeah. There's definitely a time for action and boots on the ground.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
There's a real difference between in the business and on the business.
Yeah.
And you have to make time to do both, I think, when you're a business owner. I think that, in the business is good, but it's hard to see the bigger picture when you're, dealing with what's in front of you. And, I'm a huge advocate for planning and goal setting. There's... you can always remind people of that, but we all understand the value of goal setting and planning. We're taught it as children in primary school. It's like we just stop doing it as adults. Or some people stop doing it, and I always use the analogy that it's really hard to hit something that you don't even know you're aiming at. The chances that your life or business will just miraculously turn out exactly how you want it is very unlikely, and I'm not saying, but it's important to figure out exactly what it is you want and where you want to go yourself and the business, and then start doing things that align with that to happen.
That's right.
It's hard to do that when you're at the coalface. You need the opportunity to stand back and reflect and have some time to think about the way things have happened and the conditions that you're operating in and the circumstances that are causing the results that you're getting, and then challenge some of the ideas and beliefs that you have around that, and then figure out, if you want to go somewhere different, what's that going to involve? And if you want what you've always had, you just keep doing what you've always done.
Yeah.
And often, it's not until you sit back and reflect and think that we recognise that, and then we can start changing the direction and behaviour. We start getting different things.
Yeah.
Well, you articulate it so
I know.
clearly.
It's like actually, you're just kind of talking about it. That's awesome. That doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, Matt. Like I kind of theoretically maybe I know it, but it, like, to be able to even put it in those words, just and spit it out like that, it's awesome.
Well, I think about it a lot, and it's there's no, again, maybe I've when you speak with, I've been lucky to speak with some successful people.
Yeah.
There's no one that hasn't just got there by accident. No one just shit. Michael Hill didn't just wake up one day and go, I've got 300 stores internationally and a listed company, and it was planned. Like, maybe not planned to do exactly that, but the growth and the was calculated and intentional. And I think that if you want to be successful, again, whatever that means to you, you can be intentional and calculated about what you're doing. And
it doesn't matter what your idea of success is.
For sure. I'm an advocate of whatever anyone wants to do. Some people it's chasing money, and that's fine. It's money's not bad. We often demonise it. It's okay to want to have money. Because money can buy you things and opportunities that you couldn't have otherwise.
That's right. Yeah.
But for some people, happiness is time with family and loved ones. Some people, happiness is helping other people do things or supporting other people. And so once you actually are able to think about and articulate what success looks like to you, and then go after it, that's the most important thing you can really ever do.
Do you ever work with young people? Like, have you ever been kind of called up to schools or anything to talk to people? I think you've got a lot to offer.
Well, I'm actually a teacher by trade. That's how I started originally. But I never actually taught. I did spend 3 years doing my degree, and then spent 3 days teaching, and then realised that.
Awesome. Okay.
So that's good use of my student loan. But no, I mean, I enjoy speaking to young people. I've spoken to a few sort of different groups at the university as well, the entrepreneurial sort of faculty there. But I've done some work with
cool.
in the past.
Here's the menu. I'll hand it over.
What happened during those 3 days, Matty, when you realised, man, this teaching gig's not for me?
Oh, no, it was more like that's probably a hyperbole for a story, but for a good story. I sort of I was quite young when I graduated, so I think I was only like 20 years old, and I was going into high school teaching 18 and 19-year-olds, and it didn't, they were my peers, and it just didn't sort of seem, I was like, maybe I'll wait a little bit and then go back to it, and then I got a job working for a radio station, cooking sausages outside Harvey Norman on a Saturday morning. Those things that was got a long time ago now. And then I sort of just saw the radio industry, and I was like, man, this is pretty fun, pretty cool. They always seem to be having fun and doing cool stuff. And so I sort of stuck around there, and then I ended up spending about 5 years in media and marketing and stuff before the earthquakes. And so I was like, this is more fun than teaching, and so I just stuck out with that. And then the earthquakes happened, and then we left our jobs and moved overseas, and then we spent 4 years travelling, and then came back to do the businesses.
So you followed the fun.
Great
way to go.
Well, I just enjoyed it more than what I was doing, more than teaching, I think. And
when did you pick up sailing? So we just sailed across the Atlantic.
Well, that was when we moved to Greece, when we left New Zealand, a place called Santorini, and we lived there for a summer, and then we wanted to. It's quite seasonal there. There's not much happens in Greece during the winter, so we needed to move somewhere else, and we quite liked summer, so we moved to the Caribbean, and then we spent a season there, and then there were these super yachts there. and there were lots of young people on them doing, cool stuff that we thought, and so we sort of got onto those. And then, so when I say I'd sailed across the Atlantic, it sort of sounds, like I was in a rickety old boat, like scooping water out of the bottom of it, bailing water out, and but the reality is I was on a super yacht. There was no guests or anything, so it was just so we sailed across the Atlantic on you don't have any guests, you just take the boat over there.
Yep. Wow.
So.
And what was it? But we got arrested in the Caribbean. It's just these are the highlights, mate. I just read through.
You going for all
the bio?
We sail from we sailed from France to the Caribbean. It takes about 3 weeks, and whilst you're on the boat, it's very dry. You don't drink. You don't. It's pretty just because you're literally in the middle of the ocean. Like if something went wrong, you've got to be. Everyone's got to be on your game, sort of thing. And it's a big boat. It's 50 meters. So it's and you're stuck on a boat. It's a big boat, but at the same time you can't go anywhere. So it's pretty confined. And then you pull up in the Caribbean at Antigua for the Antigua Boat Show, and I don't know if you've ever been to the Caribbean, but it's generally duty free. So everything that's bad for you is really cheap, and everything that's good for you is really expensive. So if you want to go and buy like vegetables,
Sounds like a supermarket.
Yeah. It's and so you get off the boat, and there's all the boats do the crossing at the same time. So there's maybe 30 boats all sort of pull up in the Caribbean relatively at the same time, and every boat has crew, and every all your crew are very similar age to you, and so there's 12 on our boat, and there's probably 30 boats there. So you do the math. There's a lot of people that have all been stuck on a boat for 3 weeks, and you get there and you pull up in the Caribbean, and there's a bar at the end of the dock that sells rum for $1, and as you can imagine, anyone that's been stuck and confined on a boat for a long time enjoys the $1 rum immensely, and so that's what I did, and ended up in a bar doing something that I shouldn't have, and we got arrested, and we actually it's a horrific story. We ended up getting beaten up in the jail and stuff.
Oh, man.
You don't get arrested in the Caribbean would be my advice.
Is that the protocol, how things just go down over there? Or?
Yeah, there's street justice for sure. We got put up against the wall and whacked with sticks and cigarettes put out at us and stuff, and character building.
Oh, charming.
That's what I put it down to. It's a good story.
Unfortunately, those crappy things make the best stories sometimes.
It's I learned my lesson, but it was fun, and maybe not at the time. My wife, or she was my girlfriend then, was sort of trying to see what she could lean on the jail, the attendant to let us out that night and stuff. But we ended up staying there for the night, and they let us out in the morning. But what real person hasn't spent a night in jail? That's been my question.
Okay, I think I'll stick to business.
Yeah.
And then you spent a couple more years on the yacht.
Yep. So we worked on those and sailed all over the place, and the yacht's kind of like the mines in a way, where you can save quite a lot of money because you don't have any costs. You live on the boat, and the boat pays for everything for you. Food, everything down to your shampoo, and so and you work hard, like really hard. Like one of my shifts was from 1 a.m. in the morning till 5 p.m. at night. So 16-hour days, 8 hours off, and so you work really hard, and for 3 months straight, not 3 months every day, because you have guests on for the summer, and then you get a break. So for 3 months you don't spend any money. The boats are all flagged in offshore states, so you don't pay tax, and you can save a lot of money, and so that's how
it's ticking all the right boxes.
Yeah, and then that's how we came back and bought our first business. From doing that, so it's a bit of fun, but hard work.
You also worked your butt off.
Yeah,
it's not glamorous work. I was cleaning windows and decks and boats and people. It's a hard, 16 hours a day.
Yeah, mate, that's a hard gig.
But hard work is again synonymous with anyone who's.
That's right. Yeah, I get caught up in all of the kind of the mental gymnastics of business ownership and the different things you can do in that realm. But I mean, ultimately it has to be coupled with that hard work, eh?
Yeah, you talked
Yeah.
about it before. You've got to have luck. You've got to be lucky for sure. You've got to have the opportunity that's there, and luck can play a part in that. But also, when luck and opportunity do meet each other, you've got to be willing to go all in on it, and that's not always sexy or attractive.
No.
There's sacrifices that need to be made often when that happens, and then the ability to stick it out when it gets tough.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
another key component.
Yeah, totally. Resilience. Perseverance. Go, Milton. What were you going to say?
Well, first of all, I was just going to say, have you chosen a breakfast item there, man?
Yeah.
And secondly, there's still lots of people who think that, like Mr. Beast, for example, people think he just got there. Oh, he's so lucky, he's just rich. They just think people got there without any work or vision, that it just sort of happens magically. But, that's just so not the case.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, what do they say? It takes 20 years to be an overnight success,
Yeah, exactly.
and often only people see the front side of it. But
20 years.
It's there's no one I've ever met that's become successful in whatever element of their life without putting in a huge amount of effort. And we often just see the highlight reel now, which
Yeah, mate.
the overnight stuff, and it's not always, unfortunately. Yeah, you can be successful in a short period of time, but it generally because you've accumulated a set of skills and the ability to see things over a longer period of time that's allowed you to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah. Man, Matt, blows me away, the understanding you've got of all of that. I feel like I've just been kind of bumbling along, but I'm beginning to sort of see some of those truths.
But that's that whole thing about taking the swing, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
You're sort of faced with your inadequacies. And if you keep going, you start dealing with them, and then you start becoming successful, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, we've been at it for 4 years, so 20 years overnight success. We've got another 16.
Cool, mate. It's heaps of time.
No, what I was meaning is that, but it's how long had you worked in cafes before that?
Oh, yeah, ages.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So like, it's the successes that you were able to design this incredibly small place to be exceptionally efficient, and so. I know people were coming in and trying to figure out what you'd done and how you designed it to do that. Bigger, large operators trying to figure out how you'd done it. And so, but it took you how many years of working and, thinking and designing to be able to build something like this,
Good point.
I remember people coming here. I saw it twice. People coming here with cameras and filming the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty random, eh?
Just to go,
I don't think anything
what's this
of
guy
it,
done
but
here? I might copy it, sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Well, it's the ultimate form of flattery, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's right, eh? One of the things I've learned, you kind of want to be the leader, right? Rather than the person doing the copying. You don't want to be the person doing on the end of the camera, taking photographs. Sweet. Thanks, Matt, for coming in and sharing all of those insights. And that is just like a small part of your story and your journey and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'd love to have you on again and talk about, other areas and stuff.
Yeah, no, happy to. It was great. It's lovely to spend some more time with you guys. See
cool.
a lot through the window, so it's nice to chat more. And I'm always happy to help. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, cheers, Matty.
Cheers.